What's up, world? Back at you again, your boy Top Dog, coming to you from the Against the Grain channel, where we think against the grain, we talk against the grain, we walk against the grain. All right? We all about higher levels of understanding. We all about invoking thoughts. We all about getting better. We all about improvement. I'm coming to you from the gym, man. Got back in the gym on the day. You know what I mean? Health is wealth. You got to keep your body healthy. You got to keep your mind healthy. You got to keep your spirit healthy. So thanks for joining the channel. Hopefully you get some valuable information about this, because that's the aim. That's what I set out to do. That's what I finally decided that my mission was. And so I thank you. If you like the content, go ahead and subscribe, share, like, and continue to tune in, because we're going to have more and more valuable information. So if you tuned into my last video, I kind of gave you a prelude again of what I was going to be talking about today. And that was my decision and why I decided to divorce the church. So come on in, people. Get comfortable, kick your feet up, and let's let loose. Hope you enjoy. So I'm going to be reading off some notes today, because I think that this is some very valuable information. I think that there are more people out there that kind of think like I thought at the time and experience some of the feelings that I was experiencing when going through this, and really didn't have too many places to turn, couldn't get questions answered. You're feeling a certain way. You're not able to get the answers to the questions that you have in your heart. And I finally figured it out and stepped away. And I'm going to let you know, I haven't been more freer since I've done this. So I'm going to go through a couple speaking points that I've got down here on notes. And I want you guys to follow along. And maybe you feel this way. Maybe you don't. I'm not trying to convince you to leave your church and to tell your pastor to, flip your pastor off. And, I'm not telling you to do that. But maybe you feel this way. Maybe you feel the same way that I felt and feel like, it's not the thing to do to just walk away. Maybe you want to walk away, and this video might give you the courage to do so. But these are the reasons why I walked away and felt better, much, much better for doing so. Number one, the concept of tithes and offering. Now, before I take you down this journey, I have to let you know a little bit about my religious background. Growing up as a young kid, I can remember back probably around the age of 6, living with my grandmother, who had just started practicing the Jehovah's Witness faith. Now, this is a whole nother thing here, guys. This is a whole nother thing. I knew from a very age that I never wanted to have anything to do with this religion for so many reasons. They didn't celebrate holidays. They didn't really promote the family unit, and healthy conversations, dialogue, being able to conversate with people. They didn't promote that. It was just like, we're going to separate ourselves from the rest of the world, whom they called worldly people. We're going to separate ourselves from them, and we don't associate. You're not allowed to associate. You're not allowed to talk to girls. You're not, you can't do any of that type of stuff until you're old enough to kind of provide for yourself. So 18 was the magic number for me that my grandmother gave me. When you get 18, you can do what you wish. You pretty much considered grown at that point. So that was my magic number, right? But imagine in high school having girls call a house or anything like that, and having that, and having, having them being told, well, he can't have phone calls from girls. Imagine what that does to you. Imagine how that kind of destroys you on the inside a little bit. Imagine not being able to celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving. Now, listen, I don't believe in the concept of Christmas or anything like that either, but I do believe in the concept of family. And you don't have to celebrate what's going on, but you can use that as an opportunity to get the family around. Hey, let's talk about certain things. Let's promote healthy conversation. You know, one of the things that most of us grew up, especially as black people, African Americans, you know, when you ask a question, when your mom would tell you to do something and you ask a question, what would they say? Everybody knows this. Because I said so. That's not healthy. That's not healthy. That's not getting you prepared for when you go out into the world. And this is why we get caught in these religions. This is why we stay so long, because we were taught to not question anything, because they were taught to not question anything. So the answer is always, well, because I said so. And this is a lot of what goes on in the church. So coming from a Jehovah's Witness background, not being able to celebrate holidays, and more so important to me, not having a family dynamic to where we can just talk and you can prep me for when I get out into the real world. Because I'm going to tell you, once I turned 18 and started to have to go out and communicate with people, then I had a tough time. I still sometimes do have a tough time communicating with people, because that dynamic was cut off from my life from taking part in this religion. So in the house, we had to go to Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses on Thursdays and Sundays, excuse me. But we didn't have to go as far as doing the field service. For those that don't know what that is, that's when they harassing you at your door, knocking on the door early in the morning, talking about, can I give you a watchtower? And, and it's like slam the door in their face. Nobody want to hear none of that. So that I wasn't subjected to all of that. So coming from that faith, we never had a collection plate. From anything that I've seen, they never took up a collection. I don't know how they made their money, but it was no collection plate going around the church on Thursday nights when we went, nor on Sundays. So they made their money without burdening the people and making them feel guilty for not contributing. So the concept of tithes and offering, once I got to church, was a little bit strange, and I never could get comfortable with it. So let me fast forward you into how I transitioned from that to the church. So I'm 18 years old. I'm no longer practicing the religion. I'm pretty much in a position to where I'm getting out on my own. I'm getting, at the age of 22, I believe I got my first apartment. I moved out. And I think I was mid-20s, maybe 26. And I bought my first home at 26. The seller of the house told me, he was kind of giving me a rundown of the neighborhood. And he had told me that the guy that lived next door was a pastor. Okay, so we close on the house, we buy the house, fast forward, we move in, empty out the U-Haul, put everything in the garage, and being in a hurry, left the garage door up. Now, this is unbeknownst. The garage door was left up. We're just moving in, we're hurrying around. We got to go return I got to go return the U-Haul, and I got to take care of some other business. So upon returning home, the next door neighbor, which happens to be the pastor, and his wife were sitting out in lawn chairs. And they said, we've been waiting. We wanted to meet you for one, but we've been waiting outside. Now I noticed that the garage door is left all the way up. And we were waiting. He said, we were waiting for one, to meet you guys and to introduce ourselves. But two, as you can see, you left your garage door open. So we want to make sure that nobody went in and took any of your stuff. And I was like, man, good looking out. That was a good look. You know what I mean? So that told me right there that he was a good dude. He cared. And, that was a solid. Now, I knew at this point that he was a pastor. I didn't talk to him about it then. It had to be a couple of weeks later. I was coming out of the garage. He was pulling out, getting ready to go over to the church, and he let the window down to speak. And I asked him, I knew what he'd done, but I asked him anyway, hey, what is it that you do? And he said, I'm a pastor at a church, at this church. And he described where it was, and he gave me a card. He said, if you ever want to come down, come on down. So about a week or so later, I went and I stayed for a period of about 2.5 years, right? So here is number one. Here's the first thing that turned me off about church. I never could get with this, and the concept of tithes and offering. So this was a new concept to me anyway. You're getting in church. I saw it on, watching different programs where they show church and they show the collection basket. So I knew of it, but I didn't know the deepness of how they make you feel guilty if you don't give. So the collection plates going around, and I'm under, I'm always under the act of, listen, if I want to give something, I'm going to give it. If I don't pressure me at all. That's the way that it should be. Because in my estimation, you shouldn't be asking for money from the public as a nonprofit organization. You shouldn't be asking for that. That was just wrong with me. It never sat right with me from day one. I was just like, oh, this just is wrong, right? And then they come and what Bible verse they use to make you feel guilty about not giving money. They go to that famous verse, and everybody knows it that's been in church. Will a man rob God except the tithes and offering, right? That's the only piece they say. They don't go on. They don't go on to later verses where it also says, bring ye all the tithes in the storehouse so that there may be meat in my house, right? So I'm like, this is from day one. But church is designed to condition you from the day that you step up in there and you go before the pastor and they say, hey, they give you the speech that they give you, which I'm going to talk about later on in another one of my talking points. But it's a control type of thing. It's a control type of thing. So tithes and offerings. So I continue to go, and it's funny how we'll continue in something, even though we know that it's wrong in our soul. It's wrong deep down. We'll continue on because of the conditioning, and that's what I did. I continued on. I continued on and continued on and continued on till later, I just said, enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. And I decided that day, I said, I was sitting there. I remember some other things happen. You can't walk through this way. You can't do this. You can't wear this. You know what I'm saying? It's all like, there's Bible verses to support and to contradict everything they're saying, but there's also Bible verses to back up what they say. So it's very, very confusing. A lot of things were going on. Well, don't walk through this. Don't say this. And it's just programming. This stuff is outdated to the fullest. Some of the ridiculous stuff that was going on where you can't walk while the pastor's speaking and all this old foolishness. A lot of stuff that went down that made me come to that. But tithes and offering, number one, remember that. So if you're in church and you just don't feel right about tithes and offering, as I began to study the concept, and I found out that this was tithes and offering in the Old Testament was once a year. It was a once a year event where people from near and far took a pilgrimage to one place. I forget where it was. I have to pull out my notes on from when I did that study. But the concept here is tithes and offering, right? So it was a once a year event. You take this pilgrimage and you are to give 1/10 of whatever it is that you specialize in. So if you're a farmer, you're going to bring 1/10 of your vegetation, 1/10 of your vegetables down. If you have cattle and herd, if you got 10 cows, you bring one of them. And you're not to bring your most lame. You're to bring your best cow. So you got all of these people once a year bringing all of this stuff all of their 1/10 to the storehouse. That's what that verse means. Bring all ye tithes to the storehouse so that there may be meat in my house, right? So they're bringing all of this stuff once a year. Here's another caveat. If you were in a position where you couldn't make that pilgrimage, you were to keep that 1/10 for yourself to feed you and your family. It wasn't, oh, well, if you missed this year and you didn't bring your 10th, you bring another 10th next year. No. It's in the book of Leviticus if anybody wants to study it. I'll try to post the verses in this video. I'll try to post the Bible verses in this video so that you can go along and follow along with it for yourself if you don't believe us. If you don't believe me, because most people don't like to read anyway. They just take the word of the pastor. But anyway, getting back on track. So tithes and offering is all about food. But what do slick pastors, what do they do today? Oh, well, we no longer, when you ask about it, it's, oh, well, we no longer deal in food anymore. We've translated that into money. So there's also a Bible. So I contradicted that and said, well, there's also a verse that says, where God is speaking and said, to my word, you shall add nothing to it and you shall take nothing away. So in the Old Testament, if they're talking about food, then that's what it is, because you aren't to take anything away from the word and you can't add anything to it. But the conditioning says, hey, it goes back to what Mama said, because I said so. And you continue on and you continue on and you continue on. But that was number one, where I was like, nah, this ain't for me. This ain't for me, and it was bothering me to the core, especially the point where you try to make me feel guilty. Number two, my thoughts, the thoughts of that pastor have to be your thoughts. Those have to align up. Why? Because it's a control thing. Why else would you want me to think like you? And it starts the day when they say the doors of the church are open and you decide to go down that aisle, go up to the front. What's the first thing they're going to ask you? They're going to give you a little spiel about, do you believe that Jesus was raised for the dead and died for my sins? That's the first form of conditioning your mind to telling you, your thoughts are no longer your thoughts. You have to think like I think. And what's the name of this podcast? It's Against the Grain. I've never thought like anybody else. I've always been different. I've always questioned things. So that wasn't going to work for me. When I got questions, I want to ask them. When I see something, when something is not right within my soul, I'm going to ask questions about that. And if you coming from the mentality of, well, why should I be doing this? And your answer is because God said so. It's just like the old thing what mom them used to do. So that pastor's been conditioned. That's probably what his mama did to him. You know, that's probably because most of us went through that. Because I said so. And I'm so glad I don't do that to my children. You ask a question, you're gonna get an answer. Because I'm preparing you for life later on. And I don't fault anybody. I don't fault my parents. I don't fault anybody. They did the best that they could do with what they knew. But your thoughts are not your own anymore. And that's control. You know why they need control? Because the church is a business. It's a non-for-profit organization. Some of you should do research on what a non-for-profit organization is. Okay? And then you'll understand. They're in the business of making money. They're in the business of making money. And if they can control you, they can control your pockets. And here's the concept that they want to control. Every now and again, do you ever get that letter from the power company where you live and they say, we can put you on this payment plan, or we can give you an energy plan to where you can pay a set amount all year long. Have you ever gotten that? I have. You know the concept behind that? See, if you're paying your bills month to month, that fluctuates. They can't count on that. Fluctuation is no good in business. But a constant, so if I can get, let's say for the sake of numbers, if I can get 1,000 people to pay me $200 a week, guess what I can do with that? I could take that to a bank and say, look, I got 1,000 customers paying me $200 a week. Give me $1 million. You know what they're going to do? They're going to give you that $1 million because they see you got the money to back it up. That's what churches want to do. They want that. Those tithes and offering are like a subscription. And they go into the bank, getting money. How you think they building these bigger churches? How you think they building these mega churches? How you think the pastor always decked out in a car that's much better than yours? His wife is decked out in a car that's better than yours. They living in a house that's better than yours. How do you think all of these things are going on? But we got to go back to thought number 2. I have to make your thoughts my thoughts so I can control you and go in your pocket while you standing there and you ain't even going to say nothing. I couldn't get with this. I couldn't, no. You're not finna brainwash me. That was always my problem. I'm gonna buck the system. I'm just not that person to be following up underneath what you doing now. You got your mind, I got my mind. And let me let you guys know something. There's no need to let anybody control you. These pastors come from the same source that you come from. They come from the same source. So you have the right. It's in that Bible that you're reading. And the Bible, I'm not dead set against it. Do I believe in it verbatim? No, I do not. I believe that it should be on your shelf as a reference book, just like any other book that you read. But more than half of that stuff in that book is false. All of them characters, they false. Okay? Because we all come from the same source. You know what I mean? Why if let's just think. Let's invoke thought, which is what we're talking about here. Why hasn't there been a modern day Luke, a modern day John? Why couldn't the Bible be rewritten in the way that the world is today? Why is that Bible all of these many years old and you don't have a modern day Luke? You don't have a modern day Matthew? You don't have modern day people that can rewrite? You don't have any of that? We got to use the same book. Come on, man. I don't believe in over half of it. I believe that there are I believe that the Proverbs in there, and there's a couple other areas that you can live your life by and use as a reference if need be, but it shouldn't be your only reference. It shouldn't be your only source because you're putting yourself in a box. And when you put yourself in a box, you stunt your growth. You can't enlighten yourself if you use one source. Think about that. They always say don't put your eggs in one basket and all of this other type of stuff. But you choosing to study from one source? What sense does that make? And that source is outdated. So many years. That source is outdated. You got to open up your mind. You can't put yourself in a box where this is your limit. You've already reached it. And you're going to be stuck and you're going to be financing churches and financing pastors' homes and financing everything because of that concept number 2. I have to keep your thoughts in line with my thoughts. And that's a form of control. That's what that's what they gave us. They gave us this religion when they brought us over here. And it's been passed down and passed down and passed down. And it's no wonder why it's a black face in front of you telling you all of this. And it's no wonder they get tax breaks. Look up non-for-profit organizations. They don't pay taxes. They get government grants. They get refund checks. Are they sharing those refund checks with the people? No, they're not. They sticking that in their pocket. And then they having Pastors Appreciation Day where they getting $10,000 checks and $20,000 checks because people don't understand, because they in a box. They can't think so high. And they adapting the old school mentality of do this because I said so. Do it because I said so. And it's really, really sad. And that just wasn't me. So if that's you, that was reason number 2, how I got that. Why I walked away. Number 3, the church says that they're in the business of reviving you and restoring you, right? Restoring you, which is a lie from the pits of hell. So what I want to do here now is give you a couple definitions. I had to Google these, and I want to first give you the definition for revival. This is a noun, and this is coming from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. It's a noun that means to be renewed or interest in something, renewed attention to or interest in something, a new presentation of something old, which simply means, look, most people come into the church, they broken. They looking for something because of what's taught. They never want you to see the might, the power that you actually have. We all come from the source, which means within us is contained DNA. So we are a form of the Most High. Most people don't want to believe that because I told you so. Don't listen to nobody because I told you so. But you have to know, if you in a box and you don't try to go to another level and study who you are, you can't reach higher levels of understanding. So I'm hoping this is helping someone. You can't reach higher levels of understanding. I told you so. So a new presentation of something old. So I'm coming in broken. If what you're saying, the church's part of the church's responsibility is to take the broken and make them, put them back on a new path. So why are so many people in a cyclical cycle of just hurt and staying there for the same reason? Why is that? Because they don't want you to know knowledge of self. They don't want you to know that the source of of everything that you're looking for is right here. They don't want you to know that because you won't need them. And if you don't need them, they can't control your mind. They can't control your thoughts. And if they can't control your thoughts, they can't get your tithes and offering. So they never want you to know that you can move mountains. This thing right here, the thing that we were equipped with from the Most High, is very, very powerful. It can heal. It can do everything that it is that you want it to do, but you don't know knowledge of self. You don't know you possess that power. And they want to keep you in that cycle to where it's, they want to teach a sense of dependency. They want you to depend on them to come back for the other reasons that I just named here. They never want you to know knowledge of self. Now, here's the definition of restoral: the action of returning something to a former owner, place, or condition. Let me give you an example of restoral. Let's say I got an old car out in the garage, 1970 something, it's beat up. You know, it's been sitting out there for years, 20 years. It's not running, it's rusting out. And I all of a sudden say, man, I want to go ahead and restore this vehicle back to its original state, back to where it was when it was new, when it first came off the showroom floor. So I do some research. I contact some mechanics, and I say, yeah, I got this 1970 something car. I want to get it restored. I want you to come by and look at it and give me a price and tell me how long it's going to take to get it back up and running. He does so, give you a term. You guys negotiate a price. He tows it to his shop and begins work on this vehicle. 30 to 60 days later, he calls you, says the vehicle is done. You go down to the shop, take a look at it, walk in, surprise. Man, you love what you see. Man, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. This car looks just like it did when it came off the showroom floor in the 70s. He gives you the keys to the vehicle. You go on your way. That vehicle has been restored. Now, if you're using this tool, do I have to bring that vehicle back to the mechanic every week, every month? I never have to bring that vehicle back. I'm not going to have to bring that vehicle back for some time because it's brand new. It's just like driving a brand new car. Do you have to take a brand new car to the shop every week? Do you have to do that? No, you don't. You take it in now. All you got to do is worry about oil changes every 3 months. So this should be the system that's set up in the church. When you come in broken, and I'm talking about my job is to restore you, then you shouldn't be coming back to me every day. I shouldn't be taking pride that you sitting in that seat every day. You should be coming in for vitalization check maybe once a year, and then every 3 months you need to be every 3 months you need your physical oil change. That's what should be going on. But oh no, because if that's going on, then I can't control your thoughts. I can't take control of you. If you ain't here, you got to be here for me to control your thoughts. And if I'm not controlling your thoughts, I can't get your money, and I can't keep financing my life. I couldn't do that. I had to move on. This was tearing me up on the inside, things that were happening, and I separated myself, and I'm so glad that I did. Point number 4, they want to divide and conquer you. They want you to think that they have more power than you. They want you to think that they somehow got more from the source than you did. They don't want you to recognize true knowledge of self. They want to keep you dependent. And we all know why by now. They want to keep you dependent. They don't want you to know knowledge of self. They don't want you to know the power that you hold. They don't want you to know that you can heal. They don't want you to know that you could do the same thing that they're doing. They want to convince you that they somehow got more of the power from the source than you did. I was at a sermon one time, and the pastor was up preaching, and this is what he said to an entire congregation. He said, I hold the key to your next level in life. And everybody in the church falling out, amen, clapping. And I'm looking around, and I'm seeing this, and I said, this was one of my last days there. I said, did y'all not hear what he's saying? Or are you just conditioned to clap your hands every time he says something slick without using your mind? Did you just hear what he just said? He holds the key to the next level in your life as if you don't. You can't make those prayers. You can't make those moves. God, the source isn't in you. You got to go through him. Am I hearing this right? Is it that? Are y'all that brainwashed that y'all didn't just hear this? No. I got to walk away from this. This was one of my last days there. That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous, and that showed me that people ain't in there listening. They're not interested in learning. They're not interested in higher levels of understanding. They're not interested in any of that. They're interested in staying in the place where they are, in that box. And that's what they count on. That's what the people collecting the money are counting on, that you don't want to grow. You refuse to grow. You're in a cage with the door open and still stay there. Scientific studies showed that if you keep a wild animal in captivity long enough, you can open the cage and he won't come out. Conditioning. That's what some people are, in a cage with no lock on it. Everything is wide open, but you refuse to come out. But it wasn't me. I walked away. I got released from that situation. I got released. So, listen, I wanted to say something about this divide and conquer thing, which I think is very, very important. Separate, making you believe that you're different. And I got a couple questions to ask that are critical. Have you ever seen a giraffe without a long neck? Their necks are essential to them eating and feeding themselves. They have to reach the foliage that's high up in the trees. So every giraffe has long necks. Do they not come from the source? They're no different. Every giraffe has long necks, spots, long legs. You've never seen a giraffe look different from any other giraffe. They come from the source. So why would the source make us any different? I want to invoke thought. Have you ever seen an elephant without a trunk? An elephant weighs somewhat upwards of 2 tons. They can't use their feet to eat because they need all feet on the ground to maintain balance, I would assume. So that's why they were born with a trunk. Have you ever seen an elephant without a trunk? Born without a trunk. They have to have it. It's essential to their everyday living. They drink through their trunk. They eat with the trunk. That's how they pick things up. Have you ever seen an elephant without a trunk? Do they not come from the source? So why would he make us different from each other? Why would he make us different? Divide and conquer. I need to make you feel like I have more power than you. Because I can control you and I can get your money. Hey, like I said, you don't have to leave what it is you're doing. You can completely continue to do what you're doing. But I'm trying to reach out to those that are sitting out there looking for a way out and looking for questions and looking for confirmation so that they can make that move and live a much freer life. So that was concept number 4. And here, this is it. This is the climax here. True freedom. Number 5, true freedom. I've never been freer in my life. I don't feel confined. I don't feel like I'm in a tight space anymore. I feel free to roam about and not do whatever it is that I want to do because I've never been a heathen. I've always survived of the concept of right and wrong. I've always survived of the concept of being fair. I've always survived of the concept of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So I've never been a heathen, but I'm free. I'm free. I'm no longer in a box. I'm no longer, trapped to, well, you have to be just this, because that's not how I live my life. That's not how I ever lived my life. So I knew that I had to get out of there, and I knew that I can never go back. God bless all of y'all that say, hey, man, I'm going regardless. Good, no problem. I'm not trying to change your mind. But there is a person or two, I know. There is someone that's going to watch this video to say, man, I've been having these feelings, and I just didn't know how to express them until I heard somebody, because that's what happened to me. I didn't know how to express what it was that I was feeling until I started to go research, seeking, knocking on doors. You're going to get the answers that you need. And when I was able to line up my mind and my heart, I knew that this wasn't the place for me. I knew that this was not the place for me. You don't have the control over my mind to tell me, oh, well, just because you're not doing what I'm doing, you're going to go to hell. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that. I believe we come from one source, and everything that's under the sun, everything that the universe touches is one. We all work in one. Everything is one. Everything goes back to the source. So take your hell, take your heaven and hell, and all of this other stuff that they preaching up in there, answer me this. Why is it that we have to die to go to hell, but every other race in these United States and abroad get to live heaven right here on earth? Why? Because I got to drive Mercedes-Benz and I got to live in a $500,000 house. So I'm going to continue to teach these outdated concepts that keep your mind trapped, keep you mentally enslaved. But I'm so glad that I broke out of that, because the freedom that came with it is priceless. It's priceless. And don't get me wrong, I'm a spiritual man. You can hear that. I hope that you heard that throughout this video. I hope that didn't get missed. I am a spiritual man. I do believe in the Most High. I do believe in our Creator. But that religion and that church, stay away from me, far away. I'll go, you know what I'm saying? If I ever decide to go sit up in there, it'll be, hey, but you can keep it away from me. I know what I'm going for then now. I know what I'm trying to hear and what I ain't trying to hear. I know that you can't control me now. So it's a much different thing when I'm sitting up in there now. I'm not afraid to go there, because I can listen to you and I know what you're trying to do and what you ain't going to do to me. So I wanted to get those things out, man. Again, I thank you for tuning in. You like this information, you feel like somebody that you know in your family, in your friend circle, they need to hear this, then share the video. Subscribe to the page, because we're going to be having much more valuable information to come. And they're all things that I feel are helpful in just growing and becoming the person that you want to be. Being the person that you were put here to be. We weren't here just to survive. We're not put here just to survive and exist. We're here to be successful. Being successful is your duty. Being successful is your duty. It's not a badge of dishonor to want to be successful. I know that's what they want to tell you, but it's not. It's your duty. It's your duty to not only provide for yourself, but for your children's 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 children. That's your duty. So, thanks for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. As always, man, be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for life, health, and strength. Make every moment happen. The past is the past. You can't do anything about it. Tomorrow may never come. So always make the most out of the present. Live life, maintain, do it to the fullest, and be intentional and being great. Until our next video, man. Hey, I'll talk to you guys later. I don't have a prelude into what I'll be talking about next, but I'll talk to you guys real soon. I'll be looking out for a video on tomorrow. All right? Peace and love, family.